Hi everybody, welcome back. I am gonna pick up where I left off, and I was just double checking that everything had worked in the first part of the screencast. Seems like things are going well, so I want to finish up with resumes and looking for jobs, and I think that will get us through today's content. So, a couple things on resumes. Starting with some kind of objective or summary at the very top, where you might do a punctuated statement about yourself or what your intentions are. This is very much exemplified by the personal mission statement or the motivational philosophy that you've created. So that could be cut and pasted right in there. You want to be targeted with your resume, meaning you're going to create a customized resume for that particular job. Each job should have a separate resume, and you're especially looking for keywords that in the cover letter you're going to include, because that will help score points and get you into the second round. Emphasize things you've completed, things you've accomplished, emphasize results. Use ing words and action verbs, and be sure to look for those keywords in the job description that you'll want to include in your cover letter and resume, again, to score points. Be complete, be thorough, but be very succinct. Be concise and precise. One page is the best format because typically you've got about 10 seconds of people's time. And along those lines, make things visually appealing. Be honest, proofread, have it be perfect, make no mistakes. You'd be surprised how often you'll see mistakes in people's resumes. What else? Yeah, typically you have 10 seconds, so be concise, be structured, be specific. It's probably been about 10 seconds since I mentioned the 10-second rule. So here's a classic layout of a resume, and think about symmetry, think about form, think about people glancing over this. They're going to be looking it over and just soaking in what they can in the time that it took me to basically scroll across that page. Some things to look at, they have the objective section. That again can be your motivational philosophy statement. When you list things like education, you might include expected graduation date, and you might also list things from the most recent at the top, backwards in chronological order. You can add a link or several links if you're using electronic resumes that might splash people into a web project or reference to you online, or even a LinkedIn resume or LinkedIn page. So yeah, these last slides are really, I think, pretty much review of things that we've covered. So that covers that slideshow and makes us ready for the next thing. In the career development folder, we have another slideshow, and then we'll go into a video. And this next one is about finding jobs and the secrets to doing that. So let's just let this fully download here. Getting the job you want. Couple things you'll want to be doing. Check out yourself through Google or your favorite search engine. Just see what's out there when you search the web for your name and town. most employers nowadays do check online, and especially if there's pictures of you that are compromising, where you're maybe holding red cups or in a private moment, you can increase the privacy setting, especially in social media. And so be sure that what people are seeing is a glorifying representation of you. Don't just look for jobs that are advertised and posted and available. Think about the job you want, the place you want to work, and then work backwards from there. We're going to review an article that speaks to that. Focus on small companies. Think about companies that are local, that are accessible. Chico has a real multitude of great small companies. Fifth Sun, Third Love, of course, the Sierra Nevada Brewery, Lulu's, let's see, Enlo, of course, is here, and Chico State, but also companies like Build.com, like Chico Bag, like Clean Canteen, companies that are, unique and in the 200 to 500 person range and just up and coming or doing good things. A lot of great restaurants and businesses locally here as well, small businesses. So yeah, don't think you got to look at big companies. You can start on the local scale, the smaller scale. Learn how to sell yourself. What is your pitch? Not to sound jargony, but what's your elevator speech? What are you going to say in 10 seconds when somebody has a chance to hear what your interests are, what you're all about? Mine is about creating collaborative working environments. That's what I'm all about. So I have that sort of in my in my pocket, ready when people want to hear in a nutshell what I do. So I have a clean, concise answer that I can sort of build from after that. What else? Starting that online presence in the professional realm with a LinkedIn account. It's one of those standard features and something that's free, and be sure to friend me or reach out to me. I'd be glad to connect with you there. So yeah, let's just see. I think there are one or two more things. I want to go to this video, and if it doesn't go straight there, I actually think I have it queued up right here with Diane Sawyer. And this is looking at the practice of job hunting and ways to go out and look for and find jobs. So here's Diane Sawyer.
Next, a new dispatch from the difficult job market. NewsHour economics correspondent Paul Salman has long chronicled just how tough it is.
Sorry, let's get back to that.
He looks at how one of the big changes in recent years, applying online, is not working for many seeking a job. It's part of his ongoing reporting, making sense of financial news.
At McLean Bible, a mega church in Vienna, Virginia, the appropriately mega Career Network Ministry. In a labor market increasingly dominated by online job search, this weekly event features sessions on taking psychological tests, selling yourself to interviewers.
I've been working in the consulting industry for the last 15 years, and quite frankly, I love it.
Marketing the brand that is you.
Your resume is going to tell what you've done in the past. Your marketing plan is going to tell what you want to do in the future.
Ministry volunteer John Franklin practices what he preaches. Whether he's employed, as he was at the time of this July taping, running training sessions for the State Department, or unemployed, as he was soon after, he is always looking for a job.
Because that's the nature of the job market today. If you get laid off today from a position, it could take you anywhere from 9 months to 2 years to find another job. And those layoffs can come at any time. Your phone could ring and someone could say on the other end of the line, "We're very sorry. Please pack up your things. Someone will be up to walk you out the door."
And you've gone through that?
Yes, I have. And 30 minutes later, I was out on the streets. It's just like you see in the movies.
Now, you'd think that with help-wanted ads migrating from print to the internet, job search would be easier these days. But no, says John Franklin. It's making things harder.
We've talked to a lot of people who come in here and they have binders full of all of the online ads that they've applied for, and they've printed out and they've put dates on them and notes, and they're as crushed as can be because they haven't heard anything back. I honestly think if you're going to be spending the bulk of your time at home doing nothing but answering job ads for 8 hours a day, you are not going to find a job.
8 hours a day? That's for pikers, says Ed Ezekian of Valley Forge, Pennsylvania.
I check the email and the job sites hourly.
Hourly?
From 7 in the morning till midnight.
Monster.com has 55 openings for this longtime IT sales executive. Unfortunately,
18 of them are basically straight commission selling lighting product jobs. They're not IT jobs. They're not high-paying jobs.
Okay, so there must be something on here out of 55. No?
Well, here's a job for selling mattresses at Sleepy's on straight commission.
over at CareerBuilder.com, 25 openings supposedly tailored to Ezekian's experience.
Here's a job, the welcome wagon.
Uh-huh.
You know what the welcome wagon is? When somebody new moves in the neighborhood, they come out and they give you a bottle of wine and some free coupons.
Would you take a job with Welcome Wagon?
No, because it would be a part-time, no benefits, no salary job.
Enterprise rent-a-car, entry-level sales management trainee.
Yeah. At my age and based on my experience, the reality is that even if I wanted an entry-level job, I wouldn't be considered. I've tried that. It's resulted in 0 responses.
And yet, after 2 years without a single job offer, Ezekian keeps plugging away.
As a salesman, you get a lot of no's before you get yeses. But if you haven't been an outside salesman and you're trying to find a job in this marketplace, I honestly don't know what people do.
Some just give up, as did Sharon Moore, unemployed for 2 years, when we interviewed a group of the long-term unemployed last spring in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
I wanted to apply for a state of Connecticut job, and it's daunting. And if you don't get through it in a certain amount of time, it just kicks your resume out.
Really? You mean there's a time limit?
Yes. Sorry, you've taken too long, we're timing you out. Start again.
Did you start again?
No.
Because you were too annoyed? Or?
It was 23 pages of stuff that you have to go through, and it was just like, I felt like I need a PhD just to get through the application process.
Joyce Hirsch has a PhD from Cornell and a law degree and 10 years' experience as a biotech patent attorney. But credentials don't seem to impress the software.
I do a lot of networking, and I meet a lot of other professionals in related fields, accounting, finance, regulatory, all kinds of things. And there are a huge number of really amazing people out there who are in a similar situation. And they can't get past the online software. They just can't seem to get an interview.
So what's going on? Are these frustrated job applicants overqualified? Underexperienced? Is it their age, their gender, their race? None of the above, says Wharton professor Peter Capelli.
So from this point on, the companies decide, you know what, we can't just have people coming in off the street to do these jobs.
He thinks the problem is that firms, big and small, have eliminated human beings from the hiring process.
They're trying to do things cheaply and efficiently, but most of them, I think, don't have the historical memory to even know that they didn't used to do things this way.
Capelli's Wall Street Journal article last year about job recruitment prompted a flood of responses, and his latest book, Why Good People Can't Get Jobs.
So I got 500 emails from the first article. People who've applied for jobs in their own company, for example, and couldn't get hired. You know, they pretended to be an applicant with the same abilities and resumes they have, and they got kicked out of the process. Somebody told me that they had 29,000 people apply for a reasonably standard engineering position, and nobody made it through the screening process. The software told them nobody was qualified.
In my view, that's absolutely insane.
Executive recruiter Nick Korkodilos runs an alternative website for job seekers, AskTheHeadhunter.com.
You have hiring managers who have a certain kind of work they need to have done. They write a simple description, they give it to HR. This gets reduced down to a bunch of keywords. You now have people who are trying to meet the keywords in the job description.
Or game the whole process.
There are people I've known who've taken the entire job description verbatim and plugged it into a part of the resume, not necessarily at the top so it's not too obvious. They plug it right in and they submit it, and they make it through the first few rounds.
But don't companies know this? And why would they still post ads online when surveys suggest that no more than a few % of all jobs are filled this way?
Whenever I do a presentation, I almost always ask the question, raise of hands, who found a job through a major job board? And virtually no one.
None of the internet job sites, including Monster and Career Builder, would grant us an interview. But back at McLean Bible Church, our own Anecdata suggested that they do have some reason for being.
How many of you have gotten a job through an internet job board?
More than just a few %.
How? What job?
I was a vice president position, education training with the association.
And when was this?
2003.
In the past 20 years, all the positions I've obtained have been through internet job boards.
Is it as effective today as it was in the beginning, do you think?
No, compared to 1990, there's a lot more competition.
And as we and others have often reported, companies are in the driver's seat these days, which is why networking groups have proliferated.
Several people are going to pop up, which is a perfect first-level contacts in your own field of work. So.
Pound the pavement, make phone calls, contact alumni organizations, go to job fairs, and build those kinds of networks that enable you to make the contacts that'll get you the job.
Get around the system.
Peter Capelli takes it a step further.
Get to somebody who knows the person who is doing the hiring and can make the case to them. You know, that's the best way around this conundrum of the applicant tracking systems and the software not being smart enough to process everybody correctly.
And perhaps you shouldn't even bother with online applications, says Nick Corcodilos.
The whole secret is think carefully about where you'd like to work. Even if you're young, life is short. You're going to have very few good jobs in your life. So ask yourself, who are the shining light companies you'd love to work for? Pick those companies out and go pursue them like a mad dog.
Not the most encouraging advice for a rational human.
They keep saying there's thousands of jobs out there. I only want one.
But perhaps more practical than relying on cyberspace in 2012.
On our website, we profile two people who have...
All right, so that's an interesting take on things, and I think that was in 2012, so yeah, September 25th. So a little dated, but at the same time, kind of a similar job market to what we're going into, I think, where more people are looking for work, and it's going to be harder. So you want to stick out. And so a couple other things. I did really like Nick Corcodilos, and I thought it would be good to follow up with some of his work. And so I've got a article from an online magazine where he talks about 5 or 6 tips, and it's an article called actually 7 key steps to finding the job you want. And the first thing is, he says, I'd burn the resume. I think that's more of a eye-catching headline, but I also think he's saying don't count on the resume. So here are the steps. Number 1 is looking around the area and picking 3 or 4 companies that you'd like to work for. So not necessarily looking for the job, but what kind of company is it? And then step 2 is figuring out who works there, who does business with the company, who the vendors are. Step 3 is work backwards and before looking for the jobs, look for the referral to the company. You might try this researching the people in step 2, and then make it your goal to connect and contact as many as you can. Basically find ways to learn about that company. The next step is when you reach the folks there, talk shop. And this is often called a job interview, and you just ask someone to lunch or to coffee and say, hey, I'm really interested in in working at a company like yours. And so I'd like to get a chance to interview you and learn more about what that's like, or I'm interested in the field that you're in. So not necessarily going in looking for the job itself, but looking for the kind of company you want to work at, the atmosphere, the people that work there, and then making connections with folks that work there to learn about the kind of jobs that are there. And so how would you say that? I know you do business with company X. Could I ask your advice? I'm considering working for them. What's your opinion on their product line? So maybe you talk about competing companies. Although you might want to work at the company where that person works at, you frame it as though you're asking about the field that they're in and maybe company Y that has the reciprocal job to the one you want at company X. So what else? What are you reading nowadays? What kinds of trainings have you taken? What helps you with your job? If you wanted to work in marketing, your company, what advice would you give me about how to prepare myself? So these are great questions in a job interview. So start making friends. This is a whole networking thing. Getting contacts, and then another step is to avoid the human resources department, and don't just go through them. They're the gatekeepers, but have other inroads. And then keep in mind that this takes time, and that it's going to be a long-term strategy. So those are some tips from Nick Corcodilos. A couple other things I wanted to show you here online. I wanted to just show you an example of a web-based approach, and this is actually the company that I have, or the consulting business that I have. So it's called Collaboration Works Consulting, and here I am in my Chico State tennis shirt, and just an example of where you could put your time in if you wanted to do something beyond the resume. So I won't spend a whole lot of time here, but you can see there's some good stuff. Okay, so what else do I want to show you? Let's get out of here. And I want to go back to, let's see, I think we're good there. So what is left? I think, let's go back to our class web portal and just finish up there. And looking over my notes. So the next webcast will be available in a week or so. My office hours, I'm going to keep at Monday noon to 2 and Tuesday 12:45 to 2. But of course you can email me anytime. So yeah, let's finish up here with the webcast, the screencast. Thanks everybody for your flexibility with this style. I'd like to try to do a Zoom classroom with everybody at some point where we can all sort of interact a little more and just find ways to be more in touch. But do work with your partners on those presentations